3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. I'm Jess. Happy Monday to you all. I would like to introduce to you my co-hosts, Joe and Abby. The House of Meeple is here. Hello, friends.
Hello.
How's it going?
It is going pretty good.
Can't complain too much.
Good. Tonight, friends, we've got another special guest we're going to be chatting with in just a couple minutes, but let's say hi to folks in the chat. I see Quaid is here, Phantom and Baker Meeple are here, and in the chat. What?
Ooh.
I know, it's like we're multi-purpose.
Multi-purpose House of Meeple, friends. So we're going to be doing a fun little fireside chat. But first, I want to get some scoop from my co-host. Have you all gotten any good games to the table recently, since we talked last week?
Well, we played Clinic yesterday, and we only messed up one big giant rule on stream, so that's pretty darn great for us.
Yeah, to be fair, we hadn't played Clinic in forever, and it is quite the game to learn, but once you know how to play it, it's easy. So the fact that we're learning it again and still managed to mess it up, I mean, we knew we were going to mess something up. We gave the disclaimer ahead of time.
And then we played Campaign Trail on?
Last Tuesday we played Campaign Trail.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then is there going to be a Flamecraft stream soon?
Yes.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow and.
Yes.
Also, I'm just really excited because we're playing Lacrimosa on Friday.
Oh, nice!
Because while I was sick on Friday, Joe was kind enough to make like a 6-hour round trip to pick up my copy of Lacrimosa.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Where was it?
In Bothell.
So like north of Seattle, but traffic was garbage.
Oh.
Because it was a Friday at like 2:00, and I was like, hey, I'm not feeling super great, and maybe we should cancel streaming. And I was like, and then you could just, happen to go pick up my board game.
Yeah, because I was going to we'll be up there at some point. We'll pick it up. She's like, I want it now. I'm like, okay.
Aww.
I was like, but I'm sick, and I don't feel good. And he's like, you can't even play it right now. And I'm like, but
that's
I'm
part. Like, you can't even play it. So why am I gonna go up north? Don't get me wrong. Like when I went up there was no traffic. It took me like 90 minutes to get up there, which is pretty par for the course. Yeah. However, getting back through not only Bothell rush hour traffic, Redmond rush hour traffic, Seattle rush hour traffic, it was like 4 hours back.
Aww.
When I got back, I gave her the game. I'm like, I must like you on some level because I just sat in traffic for you.
Such a good part.
He's like, this is a Christmas present. I'm going to put it away. And I was like, no, sir. That's my baby. I need my baby.
Aww.
And then he finally gave it to me. So that'll be this week, too.
I mean, I had to give you a little bit of crap because...
Yeah. It did take you 6 hours to pick it up.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah.
Quaid says, unfortunately, we're in lockdown norovirus, but
Oh,
no. Yeah, it's not COVID.
Yeah, that's a bummer, though. Never like having illness in the house. That's never fun.
No.
But, okay, so that Lacrimosa is going to be on what day?
Friday,
okay. And
no, Thursday. Sorry, Thursday.
Kidding.
Okay, but
I'm
then
so used to
tomorrow
being
is
Friday.
Flamecraft.
Yeah, tomorrow's Flamecraft. And then we're streaming on Thursday because normally we do stream on Fridays. That's why I have Friday on the top of my head.
Okay.
But Maddie is having their first junior high school wrestling meet on Friday, so we were going to shift anyway.
Okay.
But it's also the beginning of TLN weekend, so we didn't want to stream over them.
Yeah. Got it.
Yep.
Got it. Yeah,
So
lots
we're being good
happening this
parents.
week. I'm excited. So why don't we
It's a busy week.
A busy week, but it's going to be fun, friends. I feel like it's going to be fun. The holidays are soon approaching, but that means there's going to be some joy in the air, whether we want it to happen or not. We're gonna
Yep.
we're gonna be some joyful people here on stream.
Yeah,
We're
facts.
bring the happy. Bring in the happy. I mean, I finished the last couple pieces of my Halloween candy while I was setting up the stream tonight. So if I go on a sugar rush for like the first hour of this stream and then I'm slowly petering out, that's probably why.
I mean, that's legit.
That is
Yeah.
legit. But yeah, so let's kick off this wonderful stream with someone you all might know. He's designed a few games that we might have heard of. Mystic Veil, Cubitos, and what was that horse racing game, Abby, that we played?
Ready, set, bet.
Ready, set, bet.
Yep. Ready, set, bet.
Yes, we are talking with the one, the only, Mr. John D Clair. Hello,
Hey,
John.
guys.
Welcome in, sir.
Hey guys.
Thank you so much.
Good
for being
evening.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, so awesome to have you here. James is here. Welcome in, James. Now we could actually start the stream because James is in the chat.
James is here.
Exactly. James is here.
Yeah.
It's official.
Holidays are on the way, says Quaid. We have Santa photos booked for next Saturday. Oh, good luck with that. You're either loving taking photos with Santa or your kids are going to have nightmares. So I'm hoping for the former, not the latter. So yeah. Anyway, John, how are you this evening? Good to see you here. Has your week been going all right? Did you have a nice weekend?
I did. Got some playtesting in. I got some not playtesting in, which is always a plus when I get to play games that I didn't design and are not prototypes. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And for those that aren't familiar with who you are, John, and what you do in the board gaming space, why don't you take a couple minutes to introduce yourself and share with us a little bit about who is John D Clair?
Sure. Yeah. I've been designing games professionally since. I mean, it depends on where you consider me switching to professional. I've been doing it full time for 4 years or so. I'm best known probably for two different things. One is sort of creating what AEG, the publisher, has called the card crafting system. It used in Mystic Veil and a few other of my designs. And then my most popular game is Space Base. But I design board games and been doing it for years. Started when I was a kid, as many designers did. I was a nerdy little kid who liked games and started coming up with games. Probably my first game that was like playably decent was when I was 9 years old, a little game called Monster Cards. Continued it through high school, took a little hiatus while I went to college, but had some ideas in my senior year, and then after college sort of pursued it with the intent of actually getting games published, and had some luck after a few years, and then Mystic Veil was a pretty reasonable success, and Space Base, and been able to do it professionally more or less full time since.
Very, very cool.
Awesome.
Thanks for that introduction. And so, friends, if you're not familiar with how we do community connections here, we're just going to go around the table, ask questions to our wonderful guest, John. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them out in the chat, and we will get to them as soon as we can. So I'm going to have Abby, the lovely Abby, kick us off on our groups of questions. So take it away, Abby.
First off, easy peasy. What is your go-to player color?
The softball question. It used to. I'll give you the long answer. It used to be green, and then there was too many people who also wanted to play green. And I don't know if you guys can chime in if you've had a similar experience. I think green is the color that is most commonly in demand by people. Where like there's someone like, I always play green. You can't take green. I find that all the time. So my color used to be green, and then I decided that I wasn't going to care, so now I'm whatever color happens to be available is undesired. I guess I'll go for black if it's out there, or like a dark purple.
Yeah, for me it's blue. Everybody wants to be blue.
Really? Okay. Okay. Maybe it's an LA thing. People. Yeah.
I think it's going to be like dependent on like who we talk to, because I think that's also going to be like, I like red. Everybody wants red, but
Hmm.
like there's not a lot of people that are like, I want fuchsia or orange or
yellow.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be yellow.
I have a friend who will go for yellow first, and my wife, like, she'll go for orange, and yellow's number 2 for her. Yeah, I of course I've got like friends, I've definitely have a friend who's like, oh, I have to play red if there's red's an option, right? But I've got like 6 friends who are like, I have to play green if green's an option, right? And then if there's like 3 of them at the table, it's just crisis.
Yeah. Oh man. Before you ask your question, Joe, I will say a little comment from Quaid Rain. He said, I got to meet John at Shucks. I was enjoying a full table of Ready Set Bet, all shouting and having a blast. And someone walked up beside me and said, looks like fun. And I said, yeah, it's a great game. Do you know? And then I recognized who I was talking to.
I love it.
That's quite the story. So that actually is a fantastic segue into my question. John, do you have a favorite fan experience throughout the hobby? Like somebody you met that you like totally fanboyed about, or somebody you were like really excited to meet, like designer wise, publisher wise, anything like that?
I mean, one of my favorite designers of all time for a long time and still today is Richard Garfield, and he and I got put in touch and are talking about doing a co-design. Whether that ends up going anywhere, we'll see. But that is my fan experience: is getting to work with Richard Garfield potentially on something.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I could go how far back? At Strategicon back here in LA, they used to be really good about they had whatever system they had for a while. They would get really good like special guests at this little local convention we have here in LA. And man, it was cool. I got to meet Dirk Hein. He's like Wallenstein, Shogun, Alhambra.
Mm-hmm.
They had Matt Leacock, Pandemic, right? Anton Bauza. So that was cool getting to meet them. And that was when I was like early in the hobby, before I'd really published any games. So it was kind of cool getting to meet some of those folks.
Very, very cool.
Awesome. It's quite the list.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, I know those folks. At least seen their names. I'm like, I have a game box with his name on it and his name on it.
Yeah, it's like I look at my shelf. It's like, I've met that person. I know that person.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very, very cool. We have a little comment from Dan Webb Plays. He says, "Thank you for making Space Base, John. It is one of my favorites."
Well, that always makes me happy. I love hearing that.
And Quaid earlier was like, space.
I mean, it is a fabulous game. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. And then he follows it up with Garfield and John D Clair, Robo Rally plus Space Base.
Ooh, Robo Rally cross Space Base. That'd be an interesting mix.
Interesting.
Interesting. All right, John, going back to basics here. How did you get into board gaming? You mentioned being a board gamer as a kid, but do you have kind of an origin story in your getting into board games?
Well, it depends on how in depth we want to go.
As much as you want to share.
That's up to you.
Yeah,
go back as far as you like.
I mean, so my earliest ventures into gaming as a 5-year-old, right? I was really into mazes. So there's a famous maze maker named David Phillips. And he had a book called Monster Mazes, where it was every page was a little dungeon type of maze, and there'd be a big old monster in it, and it had some very simple rules. Sometimes there was a tunnel that would zip you from here to here. There was arrows. You needed to bow and arrow, and you need to pick up arrows so that if you run into a certain monster, you could get through that part of the maze, as opposed to it being a dead end and you lose. So it was like gamified mazes. And man, I loved that book. And that book inspired me to draw a bunch of my own mazes. I came up with complicated mazes with their own like rules. And then I was inspired by my friends who were collecting Pokemon cards to design my own little card game, which I called Monster Cards, and that was when I was 9 years old. And I don't want to say that game was good, but it was playably fun for a game designed by a 9-year-old, right? And I got some of my friends got into it, and we were making games. Um, Growing up, I had not a huge game collection. Neither of my parents were gamers, right? So the whole and this is the 90s, right? So the wider world of board games largely didn't exist in the States at that time, right? It was in Germany at the time, right? But like Catan came out in 96, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I played Risk growing up in Monopoly. We played way too much Cranium. Yeah, and then probably the first big jump into like actually getting close to hobby tabletop games was playing Magic as a teenager. And then after college, I was very into board games at the time, and like I said earlier, I was designing games for fun. It wasn't until after college when I went to LA's local Strategicon for the first time that my sort of brain was really opened to the extent of the games that existed that I didn't know about, right? Like in college, like, hey, my friend introduced me to a new game, Citadels, right? Like, oh, this game's awesome. And then I learned about diplomacy, and that game's awesome, right? And then I went to Strategicon, and I'm like, oh my God, there's like 3,000 games here that I've never heard of, I mean, I was already in hook, line, and sinker at that point, but that was just like, oh, this is way bigger than I thought it would be. This is awesome. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I liked that full circle. I got starting like as a kid and then kind of progressing as different life points, hit different life points, and how board games are always kind of there at different points in life, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I feel like just, by the convenience of when I was born, like my life, I've grown up as the board game hobby has, grown as well, right? So my discovery of the hobby started, in like 2009, 10, 11, when I feel like a lot of people were discovering the hobby, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Abby, what you got, my dear?
Co-op or competitive games?
With only a few exceptions, competitive. Yeah. It's no knock on co-op games. I love co-op games. And depending on who I'm playing with, I will prefer a co-op game. But if I'm at a game day and there's a whole bunch of options and I'm there to just play a bunch of games, unless my wife is with me and she has a different game she wants to play, I will almost always go towards the competitive games.
Cool. Dan asked a sub question to that, John. What are the co-op exceptions?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Yeah, well, so the exception is more who I'm playing with. So like depending on who's part of the group that we're about to play a game with, that will determine more whether I think I would be more favorable towards a co-op game, right? So like if it's I've got two sisters-in-law, one sister. If my wife and them are in it, they really appreciate a good storytelling co-op type experience, like Mansions of Madness or something, right? And like I said, if I'm at just a game day and we're picking a game off the giant pile of games to play, I'd usually prefer a competitive game. Yeah. I mean, if you want some specific favorite co-op games, I mentioned Mansions of Madness. The Mind is maybe my favorite co-op game of all time. And that game, that is a super weird game design, right? But I think it's just awesome. With the right set of people, it's just awesome. I've been playing Spirit Island a little more lately. That game is really good. I mentioned Mansions of Madness. Yeah.
Nice.
I'll stop there. I could go on, right?
No, I mean that's a fantastic list.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I played what is the Unfathomable just last weekend, which you could classify that as co-op or competitive, right? Because
I think it's a little bit of both.
it's kind of
Yeah.
a team-based game, but like you're all pretending to be on the same team the whole game, pretty much, right? Or most of the game, right? So it feels like a co-op, but it's actually a competitive game. Sort of straddles that line.
Nice.
Oh yeah, as Quaid eloquently says, yes, the new Battlestar Galactica, because that is the
Yes, correct.
recent.
Mhm.
Yeah. I thought it was great. I liked it a lot.
All right, Joe, what you got?
Alrighty. All right, so let's follow up the co-op competitive games question with what are you more partial to in games, simplicity or complexity?
So my favorite gaming experiences hit a pretty wide spectrum. Um, I tend to like if I have a game day where all it is just playing my like I get to pick the games and we're just gonna play them. I'm gonna lean towards like more complex Civ games often, right? Um, and I really do enjoy like a game like a super heavy game like Diplomacy or something, right? That's just like an all day game experience, right? Um, but those are sort of out. Like I wouldn't want to do that every weekend, right? Um, that's like I look at that. I like those almost like go up a notch for me. I feel like this is true for a lot of gamers, right? Like those really heavy games we love playing. Um, but we don't get them played as much as we might some other games. So like they're always this like thing we're looking forward to playing, and then we get to play it, and it's a big deal. And then we don't get to play it again for 6 months, right? Right? Uh, you know, like I wouldn't leave off Magic the Gathering off that list. Magic is an amazing game. I really enjoy Magic, and I mean, obviously, Magic straddles the line between complex and simple, depending on which perspective you're looking at it from. I mentioned the Mind earlier. I mean, I'd probably put one of the games I played of the Mind where it was just like this magical experience where we're just like in sync with each other. Like that's in one of my top 10 gaming experiences of all time. Like that game was just crazy, right? And that game is literally as simple as it gets, right? So there's my long-winded non-answer to your question.
I mean, it's a great answer either way.
It's great, John. I can't tell you how many times we've had guests that are like, I think I kind of danced around your question, right? And we're like, well, that's how you want to answer it. We're not going to judge.
Yeah, I'm just gonna read in between the lines, go with complexity, and call it good.
There you go. You got it. Okay.
John, have you played Illusion? Speaking of the Mind, have you played Illusion?
Is that the one with the colors and the patterns?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that game's awesome.
Yeah. I was gonna say because that's another Wolfgang Warsch game that's just like it's just a stack of cards, and yet your brain is like, what is happening?
It's so good.
It is so good, but it can also be
his
super
mind,
frustrating.
Yeah, his Wolfgang Warsch he has an impressive design mind, in a way that like he that's a skill I wish I had. A way to take like I feel like I am as a designer, I am good at identifying a good idea, right? And then I struggle to turn that good idea into a good game, right? And I don't I've succeeded and I do succeed, but like it's a struggle to make it a good game, and I really struggle to make it a simple good game, right? Like I can take a good idea and then turn it into a good medium weight game, right? Wolfgang Warsch has a talent that I wish I had, which is like taking a really simple idea and then making a really good simple game. Yeah. One day.
Nice.
I would love like on my design bucket list, among other things, is a game of the complexity of like illusion or the mind that is, a game I'm happy with and really like.
Yeah.
Right. I've tried to design games that simple, and it's just I haven't liked any of them.
Yeah. Dan says the mind is one of his all-time favorites. Getting in sync with each new group I play with is so satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very true. So speaking of,
What's interesting is,
go ahead.
sorry to take you.
No,
I'm
you're
taking on a little
good.
tangent. I don't like Hanabi. Right, and
Okay.
it's no comment on the quality of the design of Hanabi, but I feel like Hanabi and the mind, it's like a similar experience, except the mind just like takes out all the puzzle and just goes straight to the mind meld part, right? Like Hanabi has the mind meld, but like you're mind melding over a puzzle that you're trying to solve together.
Hiya.
And I don't know, like
Hello.
I don't like puzzles. I don't like puzzle solving, right? But like the mind is just like let's just like mentally sync, right? And that's just satisfying. I don't know how well I line up with most people in that regard, but
I've never actually played Hanabi, but I've heard it can definitely be take it or leave it.
sure, yeah.
Yeah. We have a quick redemption from Quaid, wants to redeem a pronoun check. So if you are comfortable sharing your pronouns in the chat, we would love to share that. Quaid uses he, him. I use she, her. Abby, Joe, and John have all of theirs shown on screen. So yeah, if you want to share your pronouns, that would help us identify you when we ask your questions, and we appreciate that so much. Okay, so we've got Quaid says your game designs, John, are wonderfully simple systems that have I think it's really have really deep strategy, easy to teach but tough to master. Interesting.
That is a compliment. I hope that is. I mean, that's sort of the design goal, right? A lot of the time,
Yeah.
of anything that's. I mean, sometimes the design goal is to create something that's really immersive, and a certain level of complexity is often you want someone's brain to feel like they're working really hard across a bunch of different sort of metrics and problems they're solving, right?
Yeah.
So you get that complexity, and that's the design goal. But a lot of times, it's how do you get someone to spend the whole game trying to solve a really interesting question. Like the game is constantly posing you interesting questions, and the more you can get out of the way of just giving them that interesting question and decision to make, and then obviously you want to also have. I mean, a lot of times, how I add fun to my games is exciting moments. That aren't necessarily decision based, but usually you want to feel like you had some agency over that moment being exciting. So like in Space Base, you may choose to buy a 10 sector card that has some powerful effect that you may not hit very often, right? But because you made that choice, every time a 10 is rolled, you get an exciting moment, right? So it's sort of giving that very simple decision point of should I go for this card or that card, right? And then the game supplies you with feedback to that decision. Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you. Thanks for the compliment. I do, like I said before, I want to make games simpler. I'm trying to get better at making simpler games. I think Ready Set Bet is probably my simplest good game. Like I said, I've designed and never pitched or published a bunch of my simple bad games, but. Ready Set Bet is probably my simplest good game.
Well, speaking of like ideas and things, John, was there an idea that you had for a game design that you ended up shelving and coming back to later that became a recent game or newer game from when the original idea happened?
That happens a lot. They don't always come off the shelf. There's a number on the shelf, so to speak, that may still at some point come off of them. In terms of games of mine you could currently buy, no, actually, I don't think any of them were shelved and then later came back to. However, I have a game coming out from Renegade probably in like 18 months or so. They're going to kickstart it sometime next year. That was a game that I worked on for a while and then shelved it, and then worked on it like 3 years later and then shelved it, and then it finally clicked back in 2021. And then I was like, oh, that's the magic. And so that's actually a 1 to 2 player co-op game. And it the thing that made it finally click was realizing that the game system I was designing doesn't work as a competitive game, but does work as a solo or co-op game, right? Because I was attempting to design a competitive game, and I had this really cool game system where you can build this. It's super combo-y and like engine-y, and you can just build this like chain of actions that's really satisfying. But it means when you get that chain going in a super satisfying way, you can have like a 10-minute turn of like, I do this to get that, to do this to get that.
Oh, wow.
Do this to get that, to draw this card, right? And like your first few turns of the game are not that, but like if you get that chain going, you can have a 10-minute turn, which doesn't work in a competitive game space, right? Like if the goal of the game is to get you to a really fun engine where your turn takes forever, that doesn't work, right? And then I was like, maybe I should just take that really cool system that can give one player a really fun experience and just make it a solo game, right? And then it clicked and it worked. Yeah.
Nice. All right, is it Joe? Is it back to you, Joe?
I have completely lost track. I think it might actually.
Abby's got one.
Yeah, I think it might be Abby.
All right.
I think it might be me. We're just gonna keep with these.
We're just gonna
super
ping
easy.
pong. It's fine.
Yeah.
Sure.
What's your favorite game night snack?
Oh, this is my wife will hopefully not listen to this because she gets mad at me. Probably candy corn.
Ooh, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's a flex.
I'm a major sweet tooth. So like I don't recommend bringing candy corn to a game night with me because I will eat too much of it. Yeah. Pre Halloween is bad because there's just candy corn everywhere, and anytime I go to the grocery store, I'm like, oh, I could buy a bag of candy corn. Yeah.
That is too awesome.
But do you go for like?
I mean, a more normal answer, which is also more or less true, would be like Oreos. Whenever there's Oreos, I eat way too many of them.
Now, are you original flavor candy corn, John, or do you
Yes.
go for like the odd, like the caramel apple candy corn?
Give me the whatever that bag that has like the normal ones and then also like the big pumpkin ones.
Okay.
Yeah. I like you get the little small nibbles and then you get the big pumpkin every now and then. Yeah. Candy corn is one of those like super divisive candies, right?
It really is.
Yeah. It's like you either hate it or you love it. Yeah, I know. Like my mom loves candy corn. My sister hates candy corn. Right? Like.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with it. Like, there's times where I'm like, I'll have some because it's been a while, or they'll come out with like a really interesting flavor of one. Like, I think Abby found a Nerds candy corn one time, and they, no kidding, taste like Nerds. I'm like, the best thing I've ever had. So I could definitely understand it either way.
Have you had Nerd Ropes?
Yes,
yeah.
love
Those are
Nerds
good.
Ropes.
Mhm.
Those are so good.
I had a
fan.
friend. He had for some reason one of his job functions. They had like a bunch of extra candy, and he ended up getting like 30 Nerd Ropes or whatever. And so he's like, she just like brought him over for game day one time, being like, "Hey, I brought Nerd Ropes to share." I think I ate all of them.
I'd have been in heaven. Like, that sounds amazing.
I think like a couple of other people are like, "I'll have one," and then I was just like eating Nerd Ropes all day long.
Oh man, that's too funny. That sounds like some snacks that a loan shark would bring to like a game night.
Yeah.
She loves all the fun candy. Nerd Ropes probably is high on her list for sure. So yeah, very cool. Dan says we don't have candy corn in Australia, so I've never had it.
Well,
Interesting.
depending on where you fall on the very bifurcated spectrum, you are either missing out or it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Depending on who you ask.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
for sure.
Yeah. Oh man. All right.
Too funny.
So going along the lines with game night snack, John, what is your favorite game night beverage?
It has become Coke Zero. I prefer a regular Coke, but I do try not to just like inundate my body with sugar too much at game nights. So I go with the fake sugar instead, and good Coke Zero. Though like I think there's like now a bajillion different brands of seltzer water, and so that's also a good choice. Yeah. I used to like for most of my life, I used to just like drink straight juice, just like I would just whenever I was thirsty, I would just pour myself a whole big thing of just orange juice, right? And then like mid-20s, I realized like I can't do that anymore. That's a lot of sugar.
Says the guy that eats Nerd Ropes and candy corn.
Yeah.
Okay. I eat Nerd Ropes. I eat Nerd Ropes and candy corn at game nights. At game nights, I just lose my like sugar inhibitions.
Yeah.
And just go for it, right? I get really bad munchies when I'm at game nights.
You're allowed to have an exception for game night. It's supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be
That's
fun.
right. Exactly. That's my internal logic where I'm like, oh, you ate half the bowl of the candy corn. Maybe you should stop. But it's game night.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. I can picture you, John, in like a drive-through, and you're just like ordering just like some terrible meal, and then you're like, and a large Coke Zero, please.
That's right.
Like it's going to cancel out all the calories.
That's right.
That you have.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great.
Very cool. Very cool. Joe, what do you got?
All right, so I know you had mentioned Wolfgang Warsch before. I am definitely a fan of his. But are there any other designers or people you have looked up to as a mentor, or anybody else who's like kind of given you that like nudge as far as being a designer?
Other than Richard Garfield, maybe. So like Richard, if you were to ask me, who's your sort of like, who are your heroes growing up, right? Like, I've got a game designer hero, I've got a baseball hero, like Mariano Rivera was my baseball hero, right? Richard Garfield was my like game design hero. But other than him, there was no one that I would. There's no like one obvious pick. There's a ton of
more than one.
Yeah. There's a ton of game designers that I like really admire. Like I mentioned Wolfgang Warsch as an example of someone who can design really simple games. I would also mention Anton Bauza. I loved his response to a question of, and it did sort of inspire a way of thinking for me when it comes to game design. Someone asked him like, where did the idea for Seven Wonders come from? As I recall, at least his answer being, he wanted to find a way. He said, I wanted people to collect cards, and I wanted to do it in a new way. And I just love that idea of like, let's pick something that is really familiar in games. Like you get cards, right? And then you want to come up with a way that hasn't been done before. Now, incidentally, it actually had been done before in, I think, Fairy Tale. But as often is the case, you don't know you're the second person coming up with an original idea, right? But I just love that idea of like, I think that way when it comes to game design and game components as well is, how can you find something that is familiar with in the game space that gamers know about or have used in games, and change it so that it becomes a unique thing, right? And I think So anyway, Anton Bauza is a good example of someone who sort of inspired a way to think about coming up with original ideas. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. The list of great designers goes on and on. I think of someone like Matthew Dunstan, who's just done so much good co-design work. Um, you know, I've looked to him for or things he said and spoken about as sort of suggestions on how to do good co-design work. Yeah. Anyway, it's a good question.
Nice. And that was
great.
a fine answer, John. That was a fine answer.
Yeah, great list of folks.
Abby, back to you.
What's the last game you backed on crowdfunding? So GameFound, Kickstarter. Anything.
I think it was the new Sleeping Gods, the one with the airplane. Yeah, you mentioning that reminds me of like one of my other current like design that like I'm a fanboy of is Ryan Lockett's stuff. I mean, I think his designs fall into a really just an excellently pleasant game experience. Right, like they're just very easy to play, right? And then his art style is like, I think, probably my favorite of all of the sort of big name artists in the industry. He would be my favorite, right? And he's got a very distinctive style. Whereas, you know, somebody like Ian O'Toole, he's got a kind of distinctive style too, but it's a little bit more varied, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But that style that Ryan Lockett has, I just love it. Anyway, to answer your question, Sleeping Gods, second Kickstarter. I think that's one. I've more or less avoided adding too many games to my collection lately. I've been very prescriptive about my my new game acquisitions. Not because I don't want a bajillion different games, but because I've become realistic about how many non-prototype games I get to play on a regular basis, and I have, you know, I'm in LA, right, and I could go to a game night like any night of the week in LA, right? There's a ton of gamers in LA, and they all own all the games that I would like to own. But you know, if I really want to play a particular game, I could buy it, but I also probably have two or three friends who also just already own it. So I've pulled back a lot from how many games I used to be buying. But again, not because I don't want to buy them.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Totally.
So on that note, what number do you think would be too many as far as a collection for you?
For me, depends on how much shelf space I've got. My current shelf space has room for like 3 more games, and then I'll need to, you know, either stack them uncomfortably somewhere or get another shelf. Yeah.
Okay, say you had infinite shelf space. What would be your number?
Infinite.
All right, great answer. I love it.
If I just had I could just like type into a computer and then like it would like vaporize on my desk and I could have it.
So too many. There is no too many for you. You would have all the games.
Yeah, I'm a super omni gamer. I mean, I you know, I would love, and there's just like every year, like every day, there's a new game announced that I'm like, oh, I kind of want to play that game. That looks kind of cool.
I know how that feels. I myself have to like stop buying games because I'll see something on social media or somebody will talk about a game. I'm just like, ooh, shiny. Yeah. I need that in my life.
It's true because I come home and I'm like, what's this box from? And he's like, you said this game sounded cool, and I was like, yeah, I meant to like play on Tabletopia or wherever you just played it. And he goes, well, I found a really good deal, so you know.
That's how I justify it. She talks about it, I buy it.
Yeah, the way I justify it, the way I can like convince myself to get a game, because now it's like, oh, I want that game, and then it's like, how likely am I gonna get it played frequently at all, right? How likely is it that one of my friends gets it also, right? So it's kind of a little redundant, right? But the way I convince myself nowadays is if it's somehow similar in a way to a game I'm working on, right? I'm like, oh, okay, I should play that. It's research. It's it's worth having.
Nice. I like that, the justification. Yeah. I also like when Abby tells you, Joe, like, hey, you know that game that has the cool things with the bits and the stuff in it?
I know exactly what it is.
I know. It's like I totally speak Abby. Like she'll do that all the time. Like, yeah, there was this one game with that thing and it had this this mechanism. I'm like, oh yeah, you're talking about I don't know, you're talking about that one game. And she's like, yeah, that's exactly it. Although there was one time that I couldn't do it. And I need to tell this story because it was oh my goodness. So I don't mean to derail the interview, but this is a great story.
No, yeah.
So we were at Mock's boarding house up in Ballard just near Seattle, and we pick up this game, and Abby looks at it, and she's like, "Huh, this looks really interesting." So I look at it, and I'm like, "Maybe." Like it seems interesting. We put it down. Months go by.
Yep.
And she asked me, "He's like, hey, do you remember that game we looked at Mock's? Do you remember what it was?" I'm like, no, I don't remember. It's like, do you remember anything about it? Like, can you describe it? It's like, I don't know, but it had a green box and it was Irish. I'm like, okay, that narrows it down.
I said maybe Irish or Scottish or something like that.
Yeah, I'm like, that narrows it down. So I'm like looking online, I'm Googling, I'm showing it. It wasn't Clans of Caledonia.
Okay.
No,
so I'm like,
not.
I was Googling everywhere, and I'm like, is this it? Is this it? And she's like, no, that's not it. Another 6 months, like a year later, we go back to Mock's, and she's like, oh my God, this was the game. And I'm like, that box isn't green, nor Irish, nor Scottish. What were you talking about? So she took a picture of the game so we never forget this again. Yep. And she's got it on her phone because now the name's escaping me, but it's on her phone. So we never forget what this game is.
I think it's Glory Islands, and you're
Glory Islands from Rio Grande Games. Yeah, that's what it was.
He's like, that is tropical. And I was like, listen, I don't remember. But also, it was funny because we were at Dice Tower, and Joe was at Dice Tower. I just was along for the ride. But he's like, I just missed out on Furnace. And I'm like, yeah, I asked for that game. And he's like, what? I was like, I said the game with the guy with the top hat. And he goes, do you know how many games there are with guys with top hats? And I was like, I was obviously talking about the one with the very prominent dude with the top hat.
Yeah, so I'm going to put this link in chat, and I want to be vindicated here. This cover is neither. It's not necessarily green. No. It is definitely not Irish and definitely not Scottish. So when we found this game, I'm like, what are you even talking about?
Wait, how is it not green?
It's like greenish blue.
It's not completely green.
Okay.
Like she was like, this is like a completely green box. But yeah, like there's like brown on there, there's a boat, and there's water. You said nothing about that. You just said it was a green box.
And
the most Irish thing about it is that there's some green on it.
Yeah. The best part is we went back to that Mock's, and I was like,
island.
Let me retrace my steps. And sure enough, it was in the same exact spot, like a year later. And I was like, wait, it was this shelf. And I look, and I was like, oh no, I found it. And he's going to give me crap because it's not an Irish game. And there's more brown than green. And he's like, oh, what are you looking at? And I just held it up with a look of shame. And he goes, oh my God, that's it. And I was like, yep.
So I take it you didn't acquire the game.
No, we didn't, because I was like, I Googled for over a year and could not find this game. And I asked people, too. I'm like, this is what Abby's looking for.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what it is? And everybody's like, They gave me everything under the sun.
So
Isle
many.
of Skye, Irish Gauge, like every single like green box, like Irish or Scottish game under the sun.
Yeah.
And like, no, it's not any of that.
Glenmore.
Yeah.
Glenmore, exactly.
Yeah, we even put it out on Twitter,
Oh my
and it
God.
was just like, so he goes, no, you put that back. Like, that's your punishment right now, is you put that back, and you think about what you've done. And I was like, well, let me take a picture first so I don't forget it again in 2 minutes. And so now it's perpetually just on my game that I want list.
Too funny.
Well, it might still be at Mox.
Yeah, it
probably
might.
still is.
Yeah, so if you want one day I'm just gonna buy it and I'm just gonna like give it to her, be like, all right,
Here
never
what
again.
you do is you buy it, but you like put it in a different box.
Oh my god, that is a great idea. I should totally do that.
Teach it to her as like some other name,
Mhm.
right? Game, and then
No, you know what I need to do? I need to see if I can find like an empty Monopoly box and like just put all the components in it and then get somebody to re-shrink wrap it.
Look, they made a new version of Monopoly.
It's all about potatoes.
Yeah. I think Abby would kill me at that point.
I'd still be like, you know what? No, hard pass on that. And he'd be like, are you sure? I'd be like, no, I'm good. And then he would like open it up. He'd be like, look what you lost out on. And I'd go, dang it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my tangent story for the night.
I love it. So we have a question from Dan. They say, John, do you have a designer whose games have never really clicked for you? Doesn't mean that they're bad designs or anything, just not for you. For me, it's Reiner Knizia. His games have never really landed for me.
Man, Reiner's got a lot of games.
Yeah.
There's probably some out there that would click. Like he's definitely had some that don't click for me, and then but he's done so many that like there's also some of his that I think are amazing and I love them. Any designers that haven't clicked for me? I don't know if it's just any specific designers. There's definitely a handful of like really popular games that elude me as to why they're as popular as they are. Like Terraforming Mars is a good example. And I don't know if I've played any of that designer's other games. So I couldn't say if that more broadly applies to him. Like I've played Terraforming Mars. I had an okay experience all 3 times, and I was like, yeah, this game seems okay. It seems pretty good. And it's just like it's an incredibly popular game. I don't understand why. Yeah, I don't think there's a designer that comes to mind. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, you'll be happy to know, John, that Jacob Franzilius has only made 3 other games other than Terraforming Mars.
I don't think he had done much, and then I looked him up. I was like, oh, so not much.
Yeah, games I've never even heard of. So yeah, I think Terraforming Mars was just his breakout, and he's done nothing but since.
He just nailed it.
Yeah,
well, he's probably done like more and more and more Terraforming Mars stuff.
Well,
I assume he's the designer. Maybe not, but I assume he's the designer on all the expansions. Maybe the dice game.
Yep, all the expansions. The dice game is his. Ares Expedition, which is the card game, is his. Yeah, it's been Terraforming Mars ever since it came out. But yeah,
I mean, he struck lightning there, right? In a way I have yet to. I don't know how or why. I think there's a lot of games I'd rather play. I'm not saying I don't think it's a good game. That's obviously that's been judged by many more people than me, and it's a great game, right? It's a great game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, personally, it's one of my favorites, so I totally get it.
There you go.
Okay, so here we go. So I have
why is it one of your favorites? What am I missing? What has eluded me and my 3 experiences?
So,
and it's not that I've done bad. I think I've played a 4-player. I think I've played 2 4-players and like a 3-player game. I haven't won yet, but I think I got second in both the 4-player games. Right. So it's like not like I did badly.
Yeah, so for me, it's the engine building mechanism for me. Like
Right.
it's got like a touch of deck builder, which I really like because that game has a lot of cards. And if you're just playing with like the standard set of cards and you're not including the corporate era expansion, which is the longer game, which I tend to like to do because there's a lot of complex cards in that game. But yeah, the fact that you could build a different engine and not have the same game experience each and every time you play. I like the variability of it, and that's what really appealed to me when I first played. I'm like, this is great. Like, it's not just the same, candy cutter or cookie cutter. Like, there's like one or two ways to win. Like, no, there's so many paths to victory, and that's what puts it on a pedestal for me, at least.
I've asked the same question to people before, and that's the answer that almost invariably is we get. I think I probably just need to play it some more times. Like there's always there because I love engine builders, right? Like it should be a game I love, which is why it bemuses me, right? That I've played it, and I'm like, but also I'm like, I am very much affected in my enjoyment of games by how much I like the appearance of the game, and I do think Terraforming Mars is an ugly game.
It's definitely not pretty.
It is definitely not high on games I would give it an award to art for. I will give you that.
I think it looks like a very nicely put together prototype, where the art is like just placeholder art.
Well, I think that's kind of why they did the 3D tile
fancy version.
scale expansion. That is a gorgeous piece of gaming right there.
Maybe I need to play that. Maybe I need to play that because so then it'll just like the whole like trying to get over the fact that like I don't enjoy what I'm looking at. And no, this comes from someone who plays prototypes all the time, right? So like when I'm sitting down and playing a prototype, I look past it, right? Because it's a prototype, obviously, right? But when I'm playing a published game, I'm like, I could be playing this kind of ugly looking game, or I could be playing that really pretty looking game. But so maybe I need to play the fancy version, so that's just not a barrier for me for the design. And then I think I just haven't yet, in my experiences with it, found I've done some like I've made moves that like made sense and I tried to min max, and I think I just haven't found like that engine-y combo with the cards that for a lot of people is the magic of the game.
There is plenty of them.
And it's probably like, maybe it's one of those things that like, yeah, sure, 1 out of every 5 games you kind of don't get a good set of cards over the course of most of the game to see that combo, or you just miss it, right? If you're a new player, you just might not see the combo. And I just missed it one of the games, and then had a game where I just didn't get any good synergies, and that just, that happens 1 in 5 games or something, right?
No, that's 100% true. Like the setup can sometimes make or break a game of Terraforming Mars because you'll get your starting 2 corporations, you get your choice of one of them. If they're both kind of cruddy choices, you really have to work hard to work on your engine. Like for me, if I get the Helios Corporation, I know I'm in a good spot because with the Helios Corporation, you can basically use temperature as money. So the fact that you can, put out this whole big engine as long as you find a way to get a lot of heat in as well as money, like you're golden. So it's all a matter of your corporation and the cards you get. So it can vary from game to game.
Yeah.
One of the things I think it does, and actually, I this was from listening to the Ludology podcast when they sort of did a breakdown of the game, and I think it's true to say this: Terraforming Mars is exemplary in how it gives players from the beginning of the game throughout the game short and long-term goals. Right? You're always presented with cards, and you can choose to keep which ones you want to keep. Right? And you're always making decisions about like, okay, this card is 5 turns out, right? And then these cards are immediate. And it's always doing that in a really interesting way, I think, the whole way through. For me, it was like, that was interesting, but then I never got, I got the cheap cards, but then the cheap cards never like worked together really in an interesting way. So it was like, eventually I'm going to build up that more expensive card. But it does do that like short and long-term goals and options in a really interesting way and really well. Boy, I don't know. I don't even remember what the original question was.
All right. Yep. Guys, gals, and non-binary pals, there's our 30-minute Shadow Terraforming Mars.
Yeah.
The best answer to any question is one where you forget what the question was to begin with, right?
No, no. Okay, we went from Dan's question about what designer didn't click for you,
Right.
and we segued to Terraforming Mars.
Yep.
We ended up talking about what game still hasn't clicked for me.
Yep.
Yep. All right, Abby, what you got?
What is one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's just starting out game designing?
Just do it. I know that's like Nike's logo or whatever, but when it comes to creative things, I mean, I know a number of people who they come over and they play test, and they're friends of mine, and they're like, I have a game idea, and the only reason you haven't gotten your game to a point where it's playable yet, if you're thinking about designing a game, is because you haven't just given it a try, right? There's the worrying about it not being good hurdle is like the first hurdle to get over, right? It's probably not going to be good the first time. So so I mean, if you've never designed a game before, and you think you have an idea, you have a burgeoning concept for a game, just do it, right? And like that's obviously like a very simple. There's a lot of steps within like just doing it. That actually is the doing of it. But yeah, open up Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, or if you happen to be, I use Adobe Illustrator. Not everyone is good at Illustrator, but if you have any of the Adobe softwares, and just start laying out some card ideas. Don't worry about it being perfectly balanced. If you've got a costing system, just sort of take a gut guess at what cards should cost, or whatever your cost is for the game, or whatever your components are. Or don't even do it on your computer. Just get out a piece of paper and scissors and a pencil and a ruler and draw it out. You'll learn a lot by just trying it, right? You'll learn what ideas worked for you, because I think everyone ends up working a little differently. There is no right answer to how to design a prototype and stuff, right? There's certainly ways to do it more efficiently and cut through some of the time wasting, but yeah, I mean, the first step is just don't be afraid to just give it a go, right? I don't know. Does he have a follow-up question? Was that, who did you say that was from? Dan? Is Dan?
Yeah, that was that. I think that was Dan's question.
I think.
No, that was
mine.
No, that was Abby's question.
That was Abby's question.
I was like, I think that was mine.
Terraforming Mars?
Dan,
I'm just stuck on Terraforming Mars.
I know.
Dan asked the one that ended up being the Terraforming Mars.
Correct.
That was Abby's
yes,
question.
that was their question. Yeah.
I mean, so I'll throw a question back. Have any of you guys ever designed a game?
No.
I have not, but my husband has 3 designs in the works, and so I'm like his number one play tester, but he designs it just for, I think, for the fun of it and for an ideas that he can get out into the world. Like, he doesn't see it making a profit from it, and I think from my experience of working with designers and things too, he understands that that's not going to happen for like a very long time. Like, don't quit your day job if you want to go into game design right away.
Oh, yes, I would. I mean, I would very much agree with the don't quit your day job advice. I don't agree with, I think, advice that's commonly given. I think it's appropriately given advice depending on who is the person it's being given to.
Yeah.
But I don't think it is good broad advice for everyone to say design because you love it, not because you want to make money doing it. Like, don't worry about the money, design because it's fun. I think that's bad advice for a lot of people, right? I think you should want to design or not you should, right? Design for whatever reason you want to design for, of
Mhm.
course. But if the idea of being a designer who has games that people recognize appeals to you, try to design games that would appeal to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And I think designing with the goal of making money designing is a totally appropriate goal. It's not easy. That don't fool yourself into thinking like, oh, if you sign your first game, then you're a millionaire, right?
Right.
It's not how it works.
Right.
um, but yeah, I mean, I think if you find that you really like designing and you enjoy the process, and for some people they have a game idea and they're like, I want to make that game.
Yeah.
Then make that game, right? If that's what you're excited about.
Yeah.
But for other people, it's like, I have lots of game ideas and I want to make games and
Yeah.
maybe sell them eventually. I think like set the goal of making a game that sells a bajillion copies and makes you money, right? And if you never get there, you never get there. Hopefully you enjoy the process of doing it, right? But I think that's I think telling yourself that you won't make money only makes it more likely that you won't make money designing games.
That's fair.
Right.
Mm.
So if you're listening, hubby, John D Clair says, make the game and make the money.
Yeah, there you go. You've been blessed.
Joe and Abby have played one of his prototypes and stuff.
We played. What was it? It was called Winter Olympics, wasn't it?
Winter Olympics. So it's basically a roll and
Winter Olympics,
game.
Yeah.
It's a roll and
we enjoyed it. It was very cute.
Yeah, it's about the Winter Olympics where you're competing in several different sporting events, but it's a roll and write game. And so it's kind of like a race to complete those events. And if you complete them, you get certain bonus points and all of that kind of jazz. So yeah, he's been designing it for a few years now, and it's gotten like honed down. But I think now we're at the process where we're hoping to make it like be a print and play kind of thing. Because now since the pandemic, a lot of folks aren't.
Has he taken it in front of other designers and people?
No, and that's the thing, that he's nervous about it. So I'm trying to like encourage him. I've actually talked to Matthew Dunstan about like possibly pitching it for him for Postmark games. But that's still in the works. So yeah, he is very humble. He loves his game design. He's very humble in it. Like he's not preachy about his games at all. He's just like, I made a game, and we're like, actually, it's pretty decent, So
yeah, I think humility is great unless it gets in your way, I think.
Yeah.
Right, and I mean that like, if he's got a good game, and he's being, and you're too humble about, if you're like, yeah, but it's not that good, right? If you think you really got to, if people are telling you your game is good,
yeah,
maybe it is good, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you should set an ambitious goal for it, right? Now, I would say if the people telling you your game is good is your wife and your closest friends, first play it with a wider audience, because maybe your game really is good, right? Especially if your wife and your close friends play a lot of games, right? It's not like your grandma who has only ever played cribbage, right?
True.
But the next step, is obviously whatever he wants it to be. But if he wants to try to get it published and make money from having designed a game, and probably the next best step would be to start playing it with a wider audience and getting broader feedback.
I've thought about
seeing if he could get it in front of some other designers. I know there's a bunch of designers in the Seattle area.
I'm thinking of having him go to like an Unpub thing.
Yeah.
And see what that happens to be and stuff too. So yeah, we'll see. I want to encourage him, but again, it's his design, so it's like, it's gonna be your name on the game, babe. It's not gonna be mine. As much as I would love to, it's not my design. It's his. So I don't want to like put him in that situation where he's like, it's fine, it's whatever. But yeah, that's some good advice, John. That is some good advice. I will definitely let him know, because I agree. it's a very his designs are very good, and I think this one is like at the point where it can be like shown in an unpub situation. So yeah. James has some shade thrown back at you, John, saying cribbage is fantastic. It's not just.
Oh, I wasn't saying cribbage. I was making no judgments upon the quality of cribbage. Merely that cribbage falls into that category of classic games that some people play virtually exclusively, and maybe aren't the best judge of the quality of a roll and write, for example.
True. James is like, okay, yes, that's true, John. You're forgiving. All right. We got a question from Quaid. He asks, what are your thoughts on the rise of digital implementations of games on easy access sites like Board Game Arena? I'm going to level with you. I've played Space Base twice pre-pandemic, and it didn't click for me. I tried it on BGA, and now I love it. I regularly have 3 or 4 games of it on the go at once.
3 or 4 games at once. Love it. Man, their implementation of Space Base is really good. They did a great job. I guess it depends on what angle I want to take the question from. Is it good for the community and gaming in general? Is it from a designer or publisher perspective? Should you want your games on BGG? There's a different. I'll take it both ways.
Okay.
And there's probably even other perspectives. But I mean, as a gamer myself, I don't do a lot of digital gaming. But the fact that it's an option is great, right? And certainly during the pandemic, it was that was the way to keep playing board games, right? Yeah, I think BGA is great, an awesome service. From a designer perspective, I have yet to hear a compelling argument that you should not want your games on BGA. Generally, if someone really likes a game on BGA, they're doesn't mean they will buy it, but they're more likely to pick up a physical copy or think of it as a gift for somebody or something like that, right? Whereas without a site like BGA, it's just that much more likely they never would have played the game to begin with, right? Yeah, so like I know some companies are a little cagey about letting people have free access to their games. But like I said, I've yet to hear a compelling argument that is something that's a good choice for a publisher. Like I would, I've got a game coming out on Kickstarter later this month at the end of November. And I would love if that game was on BGA right now, right? I think that would only help the Kickstarter, right? A bunch of people getting to play it, being like, oh, this game's really cool. I wouldn't mind having a copy on this on my shelf, right? Whereas when the Kickstarter launches, instead, it's going to be, that game looks really cool, but I haven't played it yet, right? Maybe I'll just wait till retail or something like that,
Do you know the process behind getting games on BGA, John? Is it something that's just between the publisher and them, or does the designer have any say in it?
I mean, I was looped in when they were doing Space Base. I believe, and maybe every deal is different between different publishers. So I don't know. Generally, I think BGA pays the publisher a small royalty for having use of the game, but then BGA is responsible for coding it into their system or whatever. I was involved just to make sure like rules interpretations were right and stuff like that. Yukata, similarly, when Mystic Vale went on Yukata, they sort of looped me in to be like, hey, we had some rules questions on exactly making sure we're getting like the way this card should work correct. And then Mystic Vale also has a iPhone or App Store and a Play Store app. And it's also on Steam, and so that was a whole different process where we worked with a company, Nomad Games, that makes app games, and they're not like a platform of a ton of games, right? It's just to make the app, and similarly, they I think they basically just pay AEG royalties based on having selling the app. You know, and then from a designer perspective, I get whatever my contract says of like digital, royalties and stuff.
Interesting. I wasn't sure about that because there's always seems to be new games on BGA and a lot of these digital sites that it's like now testing in beta and this and this and that. And you're like, wait, this game's now on there? Like it was, I just found out
Well,
that.
I think a lot of publishers are realizing that like it's only a good thing for
Right.
them, right?
Yeah.
So the demand for it, and then I think there's a good chance we would have gotten to this spot anyway, but probably not this fast. And the pandemic just accelerated
Yeah.
how much board gamers play board games online. So I think a lot of publishers just realized that looks like a thing we should be doing, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's just add that to our marketing budget to like try to get games on these different platforms. Obviously the platforms themselves only have so much bandwidth to actually like code out the games, but
It's something. It's definitely something. All right, Joe and Abby. I don't know who's next.
I'll go next. I haven't had a chance to ask my favorite question of the night yet.
Yes.
So far. We're still kind of there. So, do you still consider yourself a player first, a designer second, or has the creative process overtaken the hobby aspect of gaming for you?
realistically, it has taken over. I spend more time designing games than I spend playing games, and that includes the playing of the games I'm designing, I should say, right? Like, the whole when I'm playing one of my own games, that's both playing and work, right? But it's work first, really, and it's work I enjoy, right? It's not, I don't wake up in the morning and be like, man, I got to work on board games today, right? But yes, my experience day to day with games is more about being a designer than it is about being a person who just plays games because I love them. And there's a little, there's a little bittersweetness to those days of just going to game nights, but also realistically, I wouldn't be going to as many game nights anyway now that I'm a father of 3 small children. So
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, Abby, Jess.
Abby,
Whichever one of you wants it.
go, Abby, go.
Horizontal, vertical, or if it fits, it sits.
Oh, now we're getting to the good questions.
I'm trying to figure out what that question means. I assume it means what I want it to mean.
So for how your board games sit on shelves, so like people with Calyx.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
But the one way, like we just have
horizontal.
Giant shelves.
So my shelves are horizontal. No, sorry, it's vertical. Is how I store them. I have one shelf that's very much like it just if it fits, it sits, and it's all the like little boxes that are all different, like slight variations of sizes. And then I've got like the shelves that are all the standard Ticket to Ride size. Yeah. Got generally vertical. Yeah.
All right.
All right, John. Do you think the terms board game and tabletop are separate, or are they becoming interchangeable?
Oh, I think they're separate. I think I see tabletop as referring to games that are played in person, and obviously, again, digital implementations can be played digitally. Games that are played, games that were designed to be playable in person, right, is a tabletop game, with the intent of playing it at a table with people in person. Like I would not consider bocce ball a tabletop game, even though you play in person with people, right? So it needs to be that table needs to be some sort of meaningful addition to the game, right? But like miniatures, board games, and role-playing games, I think would fit my definition of tabletop. I do think people ask, like, when I say, like, sometimes I run into people and I tell them I design board games, and they're like, oh, do you also design card games? I do think card games and board games all fall under the board game umbrella, generally. But tabletop I would include role-playing games and stuff, yeah, which I would not call board games.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think they've certainly started to blend, right? There's certainly games that are like, is it a role-playing game or is it a board game, right? But there's definitely games where you're like, no, that's very much just a role-playing game, right? Like D&D is still just a role-playing game, right? More than you wouldn't call it a board game, right? You know, one person doesn't bring their box, and then we play the game that's in that box, right?
Yep. Whereas like Stuffed Fables, I would say, would be considered more of a board game, even though you are kind of storytelling and
it very much has the role-playing experience, but it's in a box, right? I think the one that maybe is maybe the better known, a really well-known version of one that you're like really not sure which it is and I'm gonna blank on the name. It came out from Fantasy Flight. Oh my goodness! So it was like a really complicated group choose your own adventure game from Fantasy Flight. Maybe someone in the chat will know.
You're
what I'm
not thinking
about.
of Legacy of Dragonhold, are you?
That's the one. That is exactly the one I was thinking of. Yeah, that one is like, this is very much a role-playing experience without the GM, but it's all contained within a box, right?
Yeah, that game's phenomenal.
I mean, you could say the same about Role Player Adventures from Thunderworks games as well. That's basically the board game, but role-playing game in a box as well.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's where the term tabletop is nice. We don't have to be they're tabletop games.
There you go.
Maybe that's where we're gonna call the West Coast convention, John. We'll just have it be Tabletop Con. And
there you go.
I don't know. Will Wheaton might take some umbrage with that.
Mm-hmm. He's not making tabletop anymore. He doesn't trade.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
Come at me, Will Wheaton.
Yeah, come at us, bro.
All right, Abby, what you got?
That was mine. I mean, I'll go. Oh wait, no.
No, that was mine.
No, that was
we went off on a tangent again.
No, that was mine.
We went up
tangent.
Oh no, that was Jess's question. That was Jess's question. That's right.
I'm rocking the tangents tonight.
Oh yeah, it's great because we love to talk. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, this is.
But no, Abby, it is your question, and while you're asking your question, I'm gonna go get our special guest host. So I'll be back.
Okay,
perfect. If it was your last day on Earth, what would your last dish be?
Oh.
My last dish. This isn't a board game question.
No.
We like to sprinkle in a few not board game questions.
It wouldn't be candy corn.
That's not really a dish.
You could make it. You could. Depends on how broad your definition of dish is.
That's fair. You can take this wherever you want, John. Take it to Tangent Land. It's fine.
I am a simple a man of simple tastes. I would probably just want a really good hamburger. Yeah.
Just that's it? Nothing like any special way it's cooked? Is it like a regular beef hamburger? Is it a turkey burger? Is it a veggie burger?
Well, I could go back through my memory for all the best burgers I've ever had, right? I mean, a jalapeno cheddar cheese burger. Yeah, something along those lines.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very, very nice.
With Parmesan fries. Garlic Parmesan fries. And root beer, no ice.
Ooh, nice. Nice. Particular brand of root beer?
Barks. Obviously.
Wow. That's second in a row. Wow. We just had Peter McPherson on a couple days ago, and he said Barks. It was just because
of course,
it's so
Peter
good.
knows what he's talking about.
It's so good. That's what he said. Like nothing, no judgment. It was just like boom.
It's obviously Barks. Yeah. Peter knows what he's talking about.
Too funny. Too funny. Well, Abby, I think it might be time for our favorite segment of the show. What do you think, my dear?
Yep. I think it looks like our guest host is ready.
Yes, yes. John, may we present to you our other special guest of the evening. He is Sir Phantom Lipton. Take it away, Sir Phantom.
All right.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to be here as always. Hope you are all doing fabulous.
Yes, yes. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Of course. I'm surprised that this has gone on this long. Like it's been such a hit, and it's just ever going to keep evolving. And I'm having a blast doing it. All right,
John's
so
gonna have like dimmed lights and like a smoke machine. So when
Yeah, that sounds great.
he appears, it's
he
gonna
descends from the ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
plenty things in store.
Yeah.
But anyway, for those that don't know what's about to happen, we have reached the point of the show where we are doing the Sir Phantom Lipton questionnaire. Much like Dean Emeritus of Pace University asks of all his guests, I have my own questionnaire that I've repurposed, made board game adjacent, and it's time to ask our guests, get to know them just a little bit better. So, John, if you are ready,
I'm ready.
let's begin. What is your favorite board game?
Seven Wonders.
What is your least favorite board game?
Munchkin.
What board game makes you feel the most happy?
I guess I'm not allowed to say any of my games. I'm gonna apply that restriction to myself.
You can, okay, that's fair. I mean, if it is one of your games, you can definitely say it, but if not,
the most happy. Let's well, the most happy and the most frustrated sometimes. I'm gonna say Magic the Gathering.
okay. What board game makes you feel the most sad?
Well, this time I might not restrict it to myself. One of my failed designs that I wish worked. No, the most sad. Huh. I want to say it's probably some game that I've really wanted to like, and I just haven't succeeded at liking. Not coming to mind though. The most sad. Pandemic Legacy.
Ooh.
Which season,
Okay.
John? Which season?
Which season?
I honestly, I've only played the first season, and I actually had a great time. It was awesome.
All right, we might have to ask about why it's sad, though.
Yeah, well, it comes to an end, right?
This is true.
Okay, that's fair.
It was yeah. I mean, I don't get to play it again and get that same first experience, right? I got to play with three really good friends of mine. It was awesome. We had a good time. So playing it wasn't sad. It's just sad that that was a great experience that I don't get to have again. Of course, I could try Pandemic Season 2, right? But
that's true. And Season 0, you got two others you could.
That's my answer for now. If you gave me infinite time to think about it, I'd probably come up with something else.
Fair enough. All right. What board game components do you love?
Okay, all of them is a cop out. Honestly, cards. And if you're familiar with my design portfolio, I do some weird things with cards, and I like thinking about how to use cards in really interesting, different ways. Yeah, so maybe cards. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, I'm not saying all of them as a cop out, but I've also done quite a few dice games. I love some good dice games. I think meeples are a little overrated.
All right. I guess that goes right into my next question. What board game components do you dislike?
Oh, I don't dislike meeples. Stickers.
Ooh, that's legit.
Okay, that's a legit answer.
Legit.
That is totally a legit answer. Okay. What board game is so bad?
That's a throwback. That's a throwback to Pandemic Legacy, there, right? No.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That is completely fair. Okay. What board game is so bad that its name should become a curse word?
Okay, I already said Munchkin, so I can't say that again. I'm trying to remember some of my least favorite games. Let's see. I'm gonna pull up my worst rated games on BGG real quick.
Okay.
Oh man. I fail to understand, and it's one of those games that, like, if you describe it at a high level, like, you're like, oh, that sounds like the type of game for me. And I just completely have been bemused as to why people like it. Is Cosmic Encounter.
Oh, okay.
That's probably not my answer to that question. I remain bemused as to why that game has been as popular and as well liked as it is. I've played it 3 times, and like, I don't even think we finished any of the 3 games. It was like we were all like, "Why? Let's play something else." Scrabble. That one's a curse word for me. I think, and it's not because I think.
Oh.
And it's not because I think Scrabble's a bad game. It's not because I think it's a bad game. It is a horrible game for me.
Oh.
All right.
I'm sort of an omni gamer. I'll play virtually any game. I like games in virtually every category except games where you have to spell things.
That's understandable.
All right. We're gonna take a moment to pause the interview here. Jess, I'll kick it back to you so we can welcome in our Raiders.
Yeah, welcome in, Raiders. Hello to Benita K and her community. Thank you so much for sending over everyone from your stream. I hope it all went well with you and Casey. Tonight was Brain and Akur tonight, so thank you so much for joining us. We are chatting with the wonderful John D Clair, designer of games like Mystic Vale and Space Base and Ready Set Bet, and we are getting through the Sir Phantom Lipton questionnaire, getting down and dirty with who is John D Clair. But I just want to say this comment. Right when we came in on the raid train, you were talking about Cosmic Encounter, John, and Daryl Andrews said, "Wow, I arrived to Cosmic Encounter, my only 10 out of 10 rated game, getting a smack."
Yes.
Wow.
This is exactly what I mean. Cosmic Encounter, like, there are people who are really smart people who really like that game, and I'm like, what am I missing? I've played it 3 times, and it was like it was unplayably bad, and maybe I'm just playing with the wrong, like I don't know what we did. I don't understand, because like, you describe what, like, people say why they like it, and they're like, I like it because of these reasons. I'm like, that sounds like an awesome game that I would love. I remain bemused as to why. What it is that I'm missing with that game experience.
Yeah, Darrow follows up. It says, ironically, I was just saying John D Clair is so hot during the end of my last stream. God, goodness.
Too funny.
Thank you, everybody, for being here, though.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
I have one more answer to your question.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna stick.
Keep going, John. We're gonna be here a while. Keep going.
Bring them all in. Come on.
I think I'm gonna stick with Scrabble. Mars, it's fine.
That's right. I think I'm gonna stick with Scrabble as my answer. But have you ever played the game Android? Are you familiar with it? Not Android Netrunner. Android the board game, which is actually where the universe of Android Netrunner was set in. But
I didn't know there was a board game.
There was a board game, there's a lot of cool stuff in that game. It's a very complicated game. It's one of those games where like a round of turns in the game is like 20 minutes because everyone's turn, it's like a 4-player game and everyone's turn is 5 minutes long, right? Now the stuff you're doing and your options are cool and the storytelling is cool, but it can be long. I've played it once, and there is rare but possible mechanism for your turn to be skipped in that game. And my turn got skipped twice in a row.
Ooh.
So I went like a full hour. Like I took a turn, right? And then 20 minutes later, it was going to be my turn again, but it got skipped, right? So then 20 minutes later, it was going to be my turn again, and it got skipped again, right? And then 20 minutes later, it was my turn again. Yeah, that was brutal. So that's like a curse word to me, is that moment in that game.
All right, fair enough. So for our Raiders coming in, we John was in the middle of answering the last question I asked him. What board game is so bad that its name should become a curse word? So we got Cosmic Encounters, Scrabble, and now Android. 3 different games to answer that question, which I think makes up for the last like 3 or 4 guests we've had, Jess, because they pretty much all skipped over it.
Yeah, they were like,
I went right in.
Anything. And John's like, head first, I got a list. Let me pull up CCG. Let me get my stats
I got a list.
going. Like, I got a list. I love it. I love it.
Well, I couldn't remember any. And to be fair, I couldn't remember until I was like, what have I not given good ratings to on BGG? Yeah. For the people showing up, I don't think Cosmic Counter is necessarily a bad game. I just don't get it. It's never clicked for me. Clearly, it's a good game for a lot of people, right? Scrabble, I actually think is a good game. I just hate it because I can't spell to save my life, and the entire game is a torturous experience of me asking people and if I'm spelling things right and them telling me I'm an idiot.
Oh no!
And then I had a very unfortunate experience the one time I played Android where my turn got skipped twice in a row and I spent an hour of the game just waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, I don't think that would be my favorite either. If I was sitting there for an hour not playing a game, I'm like, why am I even here?
Yeah.
Alrighty, so let's go ahead and finish the last 3 questions, and then we can totally chat about this. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
So many. Oh man, physicist. I like working outside. Like it'd be so cool to just like build houses, like be good at construction. That'd be awesome. If you're just you're just really good at the whole package, you could design and build homes. I mentioned physics, right? I would love to work in at like a university, doing research, like in a different life, doing astronomy or physics would be super cool. Yeah, I could go on, but probably physics was my first answer, and I'll stick with that. It's a little broad, but like doing something academic with heavy research would be cool.
All right. What profession would you not like to do?
I don't know, like truck driving or something. Yeah.
All right.
I don't want to be away from my family.
All right. And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I've always thought that it would be super cool if reincarnation was a real thing and we just got to come back to Earth and get another turn. It's like playing a board game for a second time, right? You just get to do it again. So maybe that's my answer then is, God says, hey, here's a giant infinite-sided die, roll it up, and that's where you start in the next turn. Play again.
That is a fantastic answer, as always. John, you made it through mostly unscathed.
Yay.
And that, my friends, is the Sir Phantom Lipton questionnaire.
Yay!
We have to, Joe. We have to talk to Omari because he was gonna make you a little ditty. I remember.
He was.
Yes.
So we got to follow up. Omari Akia
Yes,
with his fantastic freestyling was gonna make a little ditty for Sir Phantom Lipton. So
Yeah, we got to see where he's at with making the theme song.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Legend says I played a prototype game for 2 hours and only got 2 turns in, while everyone else got about 10 turns. Yeah, that would be frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely frustrating.
That's a
That's
good
where-
opportunity to provide feedback that
Yes.
is not fun.
Yeah.
That's where I'd be texting Joe and I'd be like, either get me a snack or I'm out.
Yeah. I
You've done that to me for a few games too.
I remember
More than a few.
playing, I think it was like an 8-player game of Elder Sign. Never again.
Ooh.
I will never
Oh
again.
my
At a
goodness,
game
that is
convention,
rough.
I
Nope.
like what I'm gonna take my turn, but I have no idea what all of you just did. So
I mean, Elder Sign is rough at 4
Yeah.
even.
yeah, and I love that game. I love the odds are stacked up so high against you that your victory is just that much sweeter. I could care
That's
less.
best at like 2, right?
It's best at 2. 3 is also
3 is
nice.
okay.
Sure.
I've played it. My husband and I play it at 2, but we usually control 2 characters, so we're technically playing a 4-player game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could care less for the theme. You could just slap on whatever theme you want to. If it was like unicorns and dinosaurs, then so be it. But I just love that mechanic of like the odds are like not in your favor at all. So when you have to roll this one special thing and you nail it, it's like one of those joyous moments. But yeah, I could not with that 8-player game. I was like, oh my goodness, and it was at a convention too. I think we wasted like 4 or 5 hours of our evening that day just playing that game. So
It like can play to 8, or like you were like playing special rules to play to 8?
It was a special rule
Oh,
thing
Yeah.
because of
Yeah, I think it can play to 8, but yeah, there's special rules.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it was crazy. Daryl Andrews agrees Omari's songs are the best. Yes,
They are.
Facts.
Facts. Hashtag facts. Legend says it was a nightmare because people were able to change turn order from clockwise to counterclockwise or vice versa.
Oh no!
No,
No!
Legend.
No!
No.
That already sounds bad.
Yeah. All right. Do we have any other questions for John before we wrap things up here, friends? Anyone else? In the chat?
If anybody's got some last minute questions, feel free. But I definitely have one question, and I think a lot of people might have this same question as well. Why John D Clair? Like, is there another John Clair out there that was going to get confused with you? Does it just sound better? Like, what's the story behind the initial?
Yeah, so I had come up with a signature that I liked, like as a just like a personal artistic looking signature, long before I ever published any games, and in the signature was the D, so I was like, well, I should just do that, right? So that's why the D is in there. It's for Daniel, and it matches the signature. So.
Oh, all right, there you go. So aesthetics.
The real question is, why do I never put a dot after the D? Right. So if you look at my signature, if you look at my name on my boxes, it's John D without a dot, Claire.
Yeah.
And the answer to that is because I'm a strange guy. it's my one weird request that, like, when a publisher does
no dot.
Just get rid of the dot.
Yeah.
I have like, it's an aesthetic thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I was always curious. Like, is there a famous like John Clair out there that you want to like distinguish yourself? But it was apparently just simpler than that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, right? Like if you got a middle initial, and you can use it, right? You can distinguish yourself a little bit, right?
Yeah.
George R. Martin, right?
Right.
George,
Yeah, well, I mean, it definitely flows because, like, for the longest time, I thought your name was actually like John DeClaire, not like D is a middle initial. So
what's funny is that didn't even occur to me as something that like people would find weird. That like for me, it was always just John D Clair, right? Until Mystic Vale came out and people were like, this game now we're reviewing Mystic Vale by John D Clair, and then they would like crack some joke about like I declare, right? And I'm like, oh, I guess that does sound like that.
Yeah, because like when the first time I like really like got to know your games, like I was talking with Amanda Panda, and she only calls you John DeClaire, never John, never John Claire, always John DeClaire, and I'm like, okay, like, and then I saw your name on a box, and I asked her, "Is like, his last name's not DeClaire, like, like what's up with that?" So
D
yeah.
Clair. And to add to that, John Gus in the chat says, "I hope there's a John E Clair."
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, there we go.
E Clair, and then he follows up with, "I John declare bankruptcy." Famous
So
line
good.
from The Office. Yeah.
Oh, do you have a question from chat from Mr. Daryl Andrews? Would you ever do a co-design?
Ooh,
Is he asking you?
With Daryl or just in general?
You know what? You know, Daryl, you might need to
It might be.
you might need to quantify that, Daryl. Is that
Because,
with?
yeah, I would totally
or is it-
consider co-designing with anybody but Daryl, right? No.
I mean that Daryl guy is kind of shady, guy.
That Daryl guy.
I mean, he did share his adornment for you, John, by saying you were very good looking. So
That is
it
true.
might be kind of awkward if you're designing with him, but yeah.
Well, no, I mean, to more seriously answer the question, generally, I haven't yet done a co-design. I think I mentioned earlier that I'm in talks with a particular designer potentially about doing a co-design. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally open to it. Hasn't happened yet, but doesn't mean it won't.
Can we get just a little note on the back of the box if you guys do co-design that it happened here?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Props
We
to
want the credit.
CCG. Come on now.
Just saying, I feel like if it does happen, just, a little shout out.
Yeah. A little in the notes, in the liner notes, please. I mean, I can't tell you, John, how many times we've had people on this stream that we've just inspired them to either design a game or to like co-design a game with somebody or like broaden people's horizons. So yeah, exactly. On this
maybe Daryl and I need to connect, and
Hey, I play it. I don't even know what it's about yet, and I play it.
I'm in.
Tell us where the crowdfunding is. We can prototype it. We can play test it for you both.
Yep.
You've got
There you
3
go.
streamers right here. That would like
Yeah, we would totally stream it and review it. It'd be great.
Turns out it's like not good, and you guys are like, you don't know how to say it. Like,
Be like,
they decided to code
with a little bit of cosmic encounter thrown in.
They decided to co-design it together, and they just made that decision on our thing, and the game is that just don't. It's not.
Yeah, and then we sent an email like, yeah, could you take our name off the box in future printing? Oh, that's great.
Scrabble meets Cosmic Encounter. That's funny.
I'd be curious to see how that would work now. Like, I'm playing that in my head with turn skipping.
Yep.
We've created a monster.
Oh gosh.
Oh,
Legend
well, I
says
think
the
this
John
has been
DeClaire
amazing.
and D Andrews board game. Take my money. I can just picture that little
There it
gif
is.
of like the kid throwing the money out the window.
Yes.
Take my money.
Yes.
Well, it would have to have dice of some kind, right? Right? Daryl's all
That
about
makes
pretty
sense.
dice. And
That's true. Darrow does like dice.
we haven't even talked about Cubitos this whole time.
No, we haven't.
We have not talked about Cubitos. Are we supposed to talk about Cubitos?
I mean,
Jess brought it up.
I just brought it up when we were talking about dice. I mean,
I was working on the Cubitos expansion a little while ago.
what?
Ooh, expansion?
Ooh.
Do tell.
We're leaning in closer now.
So AEG's plan is. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know if I'm allowed to say what I was about to say.
Yeah, we don't want to get you in
yeah.
trouble.
I don't think it matters, but I'll refrain. No, I mean I was working on the expansion. It comes with 2 new types of dice, a new card variety for the existing dice, and 1 more double-sided racetrack. So
Nice.
more variety. Yeah, more combo
Hey.
push your luck tasticness.
That's always good. We love getting just a little snippet of exclusive. So we appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Only here, friends. Only here.
And then I got the prototype. That you can't see the glare. Dead Reckoning prototype I was cutting out here.
Ooh.
I got this one's funny. This is I'm actually making a gift for my sisters-in-law who are both really into miniature things. They love like miniatures.
Yeah.
And they love cats. So I redesigned a nearly the same but slightly redesigned space base, and then made it miniature and cat themed.
That sounds amazing.
So that's a Christmas gift for them, but it's also an excuse for me to test out some space base, like I don't want to call it second edition ideas. It's like if you made like the Target exclusive version of Space Base, where it's like a little more like grandparent friendly, right? Just like a little less complex,
right?
Type of version. Yeah.
Nice. Ecos. There's getting a lot of shouts in the chat from Ecos. We didn't mention Ecos. Sorry, friends. Legend says his copy of Ecos is autographed by Becca Scott after I saw her video because it was with me when I met her. Nice, Legends. Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
There you go.
Nice. Legends is fantastic.
Becca's cool.
Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, man. So many games. Yeah, so we've got a little exclusive insider info from John tonight. I think we have had all the tangents we can muster up, unless
yeah, this has been a fantastic conversation. We've talked about a lot tonight.
Thank you, John, so much for not sticking to the questions at all.
I worked hard on that. I want you guys to get the full tangent experience.
Love it.
Yeah, this has been amazing. And so if Joe and Abby don't have anything else, then we can wrap it up, friends. What do you think?
Yep, I think we can wrap it up, put a nice little bow on it, and send these fine folks off to somewhere awesome.
All right. Yeah. While I'm pulling that up, Joe and Abby, why don't you share with everyone what you've got going on this week?
So Abby's schedule is pretty much my schedule. So I'm gonna let just like she does to me, I'm gonna let her do it.
Okay, so tomorrow we are playing Flamecraft because I am excited for it. Thursday we're playing Lacrimosa because I am excited for it. And Sunday we're playing Sailor Moon Monopoly, and I'm excited to wear my pajamas on stream.
Yes.
There you go. Knocked it out of the park. So yeah, Tuesday and Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, Flamecraft and Lacrimosa. Thursday at 1 p.m. always with Amanda Panda for the Panda and Phantom show. Not sure what we're doing yet, but we'll always come up with something. And then it is TLN weekend. Our slot is 3:30 p.m. Pacific. We'll be doing Sailor Moon Monopoly in celebration of TLN's second birthday and Monopolized by Monopoly, sponsored by the Op. So a lot of good stuff coming up this week.
Yeah. And for me, friends, I will be back on Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific time for a game of Dungeons, Dice, and Danger from Elia Games. It's a fun little roll and write. If you want to check it out, you can play along with me. And then Friday, I'm going to do some fun crafting. I think I'm going to go back to making some lanyard string crafts. I haven't done that in a while, and it's getting down to holiday season, and I like to make little handy dandy little trinkets for folks just to celebrate the season. So I will be doing that on Friday. And then Sunday, for my TLN spot, I'm going to be playing the Bob's Burgers version of TLN Monopoly. Yes, not for TLN, it's going to be Bob's Burgers Monopoly. There we go. Lots of mouthfuls there. But I'm also going to add in a fun little online quiz that you all can take. I don't know if you're familiar with how the Brothers Murph sometimes do this Quiz is Broken. I'm going to take that same program and make my own little set of trivia questions for Bob's Burgers. So while we are playing, just a little fun testing of your trivia. for that, but that's going to be 8 p.m. Pacific. But you can see all the things on the TLN schedule. I will pop into the chat so you can see everything there for who's going to be on what. We're going to be doing 3 days of TLN this month. So it's going to be 90-minute streams for each of our streamers because we're going to try to showcase as many different versions of Monopoly as we can. And we're trying to flip it around a little bit to kind of add some things to it, friends. So it's not just going to be us straight playing the same game of Monopoly every time. There's going to be different themes. People are going to be dressing up. There's going to be trivia. There's going to be giveaways. There's going to be, all kinds of fun stuff. So tune in for that this coming weekend. Yes, Quaid, I agree. Bob's Burgers is the best. Yeah, and I'm just so excited to be a part of that. But I will say once again, thank you to John for joining us. Thank you to my lovely hosts for being here. John, any last words before we sign off for the evening? Anything you want to leave us with? Any words of wisdom, if you will?
Oh, I've run out of words of wisdom. What few I had. No, this is great. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course, pleasure having you.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to send everybody over to Ambi Rona. Her and Joe Sondow are doing their Monday night puzzle streams. You can help them out as they go through some digital puzzle games. I think tonight they're playing Puzzle Agent, so stick around for that. And until next time, friends, stay safe, enjoy your board games, and we'll see you all on the next one. Bye, friends.
Bye.
Bye.